Well, Maya, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you all about outsourcing, being a VA, all the great stuff. However, before we get started with all of that, why don't I hand over to you so you can introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, so thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to be on the podcast today. So I'm Maya, and I run Planner BVA services. So we're a virtual assistant service that specialises in supporting sustainable and ethical businesses. And as part of that, we do a lot of digital marketing, so things like social media, blogging, website content, email marketing, all of the things that kind of can be on your to-do list and get moved on to the next day and on to the next day. We never quite get round to. So yeah, that's what we do.
And it's amazing to hear, and that's why I'm so excited having this conversation with you. But tell me a little bit, how did you get to become a VA, and what made you decide to grow that as a business? Because I know you said that you've got a team of 3 people already, and the business is just keeping growing and growing, which is amazing. But what made you decide just to start it off and just to say, hey, this is the thing that I'm going to grow?
Well, I've always wanted to have my own business. Even when I was at school, I went to a local farm shop for my work experience to see how a small business was run. I mean, I absolutely hated it. It was awful. But I learned kind of, I came out of it thinking, well, that's not the business I'm going to have. But I was undeterred. I was still going to have my own business. And then I went to uni partly just because that's what people did really. When I left school, I was only 17. So even though I wanted to have my own business, I had no idea what I would do. So I kind of just went off to uni and had a blast. And then came to kind of the fourth year of uni, and I thought, right, this is it now. This is my final year. I'm going to be graduating. If I want to start my own business, I need to actually be doing something about it. So I was at university in Edinburgh, and they have a really good entrepreneur kind of service. And they helped me. I won this kind of business ideas competition, and I won a small amount of money. I think it was 100 or 200 pounds. And I used that to basically to buy some stock for a sustainable gifting business. And that's what I decided I was going to do. So completely different to the VA world. I started off doing the sustainable gifting business. And the whole idea was it was gift boxes filled with sustainable alternatives to everyday products. So I graduated from uni and it was 2020. So then obviously pandemic came and there were no jobs, which actually for me probably was a good thing. Although it was an awful time, it meant there was no pressure to go out and get a job. So I could kind of put all of my time into growing this business. And as part of that, I learned everything that I could about marketing, really with the view to marketing my own gifting business. And then it came to kind of the start of 2021 and the world was opening up again and people were starting to get jobs again. And I kind of thought, right, alongside doing this business, I probably do need to get a part-time job as well. And I basically applied for a virtual assistant role, almost like a job, really. So I did kind of an interview, I submitted kind of a little project, and it was the person who was looking for a virtual assistant was somebody who I'd met through the sustainable gifting business. And I basically just fell into it and I kind of thought, perfect, I'll do this part-time, do the gifting business part-time, off we go. But from working with this kind of initial first client, I gradually picked up other clients. And I thought, I've learned all of this marketing knowledge over the last year. I'm a really organized person in general, like I'm quite good at this. And gradually I kind of built up my client base and thought I'm gonna make a go of this. And then so I kind of did it by myself for probably about a year, and then I've started gradually growing the team so that there's now me and then 2 other kind of digital marketing specialists, and then my wee sister, bless her, also does some of my admin and bits for me as well. So it's only been a couple of years, but I feel like it's been quite a journey.
No, it's incredible to hear. And I think what I love about your story is just, and I find this time and time again is sometimes we're so focused on one thing and we go, this is it. This is going to be the thing that's going to really, this is going to be the foundation. This is going to be my business. But actually, sometimes you start off with something that is just stepping stone, but takes you in a completely different direction. And
Yeah.
that's what I love hearing about your story, because you had this idea, but if it wasn't for that idea, it wouldn't have led you to where you are now.
Yeah, definitely. And because that initial kind of the sustainable gifting business came from, my passion and my interest in the environment, that kind of led me to then be like, right, that's the area I'm going to specialize in within the VA world, and the support that we provide there. So it kind of all came full circle almost.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love hearing these stories, because there's always something you can take from it. And I think with everybody listening to this now, they kind of go like, oh yeah, if I think about my journey, there's something quirky or something similar that has happened. Or some other people who's now like you were in the beginning stage of their business is going, where am I going? I have no clue. It's like, don't freak out. Sometimes you're just on a journey and some
Yeah.
other doors will open up that you've never even thought would be
Yeah.
there.
And you just have to look for those opportunities and grab them when they come.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this a little bit more, because obviously, with you being a VA, you've been on the receiving end from working with businesses. And I think this works hand in hand with businesses who are now at a stage to start outsourcing. Because I find this time and time again when I work with small business owners is, there's only so many hours in the day. We can't do everything. And as soon as we start talking about outsourcing, there's this whole kind of like, oh, gosh, I'm not ready yet. I can't hand it over to somebody else. I can't hand this over to a stranger. I'm a control freak, and all the other things starts coming in. But with you as a virtual assistant being on the receiving end of this, what is your tips or your take on outsourcing? How would you describe it and how would you see it?
So I think, oh, such a big question. I think it's about really kind of when you reach that point, and to be honest, I think with outsourcing, you can leave it too late. So kind of almost as soon as you start thinking, I might be ready, it is a bit of a process. You have to look, you have to find the right person, you have to work out what you want to outsource. So you can't always just jump into it quite as quickly as you need. So if you kind of wait right until that last minute almost, you've got a big launch coming up and you're looking around going, oh my goodness, I'm going to need help. It can be quite difficult to really hit the ground running when you're almost playing catch up whilst also trying to move forward. If you
Yeah.
see what I mean, because there will always be that kind of learning curve. Even the most experienced virtual assistant, you're learning a new business, potentially it's like a new sector, a new brand voice. All of that takes time. So it's definitely worth kind of building that in when you think about outsourcing. In terms of what outsourcing actually is, I guess it's kind of like really probably an example most people would have to be like your accountant. If you don't do your own accounts, you kind of look at it and you think, oh, I mean, I have an accountant. I think, oh no, that's not for me. And so they just do it, and they complete the service for you, and they're not they're not an employee. They're not really anything connected to me. I just pay them to complete that service, and they do my tax return for me. And it really is kind of on the same basis. And you can outsource pretty much anything. You get virtual assistants who do all kinds of things. So we specialize in marketing, but you get virtual assistants who'll do kind of admin and minute taking, who do bookkeeping, who do tech, who specialize in specific platforms, really kind of the whole spectrum of everything. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. It does beautifully. And I think something that you stipulated there as well is something that we all do, that we're all guilty of, and we leave things to the last minute.
Yeah.
And outsourcing, I think, is one of those things that you mentioned there, because it is sometimes, we push ourselves into a corner only to kind of get to a point where we're feeling like we're going to break down. This is too much. I can't handle it. It's overwhelming. And then you start outsourcing. But then with that, as soon as you start outsourcing to somebody, it's exactly that. Now you have other pressure on top of yourself in order to catch up, to learn how to work with a VA, to start handing over. And let's face it, handing over is a psychological thing. It will take some time.
Yeah.
But now you have that added pressure on yourself. So what I always suggest to my clients is, don't hit that point of overwhelm where you feel you can't do it anymore. Start already beforehand and start just by the tiniest thing, just handing it over to somebody. Because just by doing that, you're learning to let go in a nice way, but also you're learning to trust. And I think that is a big thing when it comes to outsourcing.
Yeah, and it can be really helpful, I think, if kind of people are thinking, I'm kind of getting there, but I'm not sure if I'm really ready, to start documenting the processes that you have, or even if it's, recording a video or, literally just on a Word doc. So then when it comes to that point where you are ready, you've kind of done a lot of that groundwork. Otherwise, it can be quite a lot to hand over when you start working with somebody and they say, okay, please, can you send me? And then a long list of things that can feel a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that leads beautifully into the second topic, which is the productivity and planning. And I think, when you're already getting to the point of thinking, hey, I'm doing things in my business that I shouldn't be focusing on, but I'm just constantly finding myself that I'm doing this every single day. That's a point where you should go, okay, I need to start thinking about handing this over to a VA. Start, like you said, make a list of all the things that you need to hand over, and then plan it as to these are how I do things. So you can almost write a to-do list in a task way. So you have that to hand, so you can hand it over to a VA when you're ready.
Yeah. And I think that can help as well with the feeling of loss of control, because it
Yeah.
is, all of our businesses are our babies. I mean, I know even just from growing kind of my team to now, three of us, when you first hand things over and it is that, oh, are they going to do it how I do it? Is it going to be the same? And if you've kind of already got those, process documents or videos of how you do it, then that's already kind of reassuring you that you're giving them everything that they need. And so they don't need to work it out for themselves either. So that just makes this handover as kind of seamless and efficient as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the beauty of it is as well is when you go through such a process about writing down all the tasks and how to do certain tasks, you kind of find actually that as you go through this, you're going, why am I taking some of these steps? Why am I doing this? I didn't need, why? It's just because you got into a habit of doing things a certain way. And some of those things that you're doing don't justify the outcome anymore. So
Yeah.
you actually start to realize like, oh, well, I don't need to do some of these things, so scrap them out. But also on the other side, if you hand a document like that over to a VA, they can actually go like, oh, well, I've got a tool for this, or hey, I can do this better, or I can do this in
Yeah.
another way. And I think
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it, because then you start really kind of brainstorming how to make certain processes better rather than just keeping to an old habit that might not serve you anymore.
No, absolutely. And when you're working with a VA closely, they will be in your business and they will say, oh, and we could do this, or we could change that, and we could improve this process by doing this instead. And it is also about, I think, having that openness to those new ideas, and to, particularly if you're working with a virtual assistant who is really a specialist in something, so they specialize in that specific platform or in marketing or whatever it is, kind of that is their area of expertise. So it's about having that openness to those new ideas, because that's also how you get the best result and get the best from the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it just works beautifully because then at that point, then, for you as the business owner, you develop this trust
Yeah.
by saying to somebody else, hey, yeah, why don't we try it your way and see how it goes? Rather than just holding on and feeling like, you got to stay in control of everything, which I've seen a lot. But I think it's once you really kind of learn as a business owner that you can let go on certain things, you can learn to trust other people, let them be creative, let them take initiative on it. It is a beautiful process actually at the end of the day. And I mean, I talk for myself because I'm thinking of so many examples as I'm saying it, but it is true. And that's part of the growth. That's part of the process of you actually developing your business. Because again, it's like that good old saying, now you've got time back to concentrate on doing the stuff you as the business owner need to do instead of struggling with all the admin or all the unnecessary tasks which are necessary for your business.
Yeah, definitely. And I think really before you kind of take that step, it's really helpful to have an idea of what it is that you want to outsource.
Yeah.
Because as I said, you can outsource pretty much anything. So if you don't know what you want to outsource, it can be really hard to find the right person or the person who's going to be the right fit for your business. So having even just a rough idea of, the areas where you're spending the most time, or the areas that you really don't enjoy or that aren't really within your comfort zone, and then help you to also go through the process of finding the right virtual assistant or kind of other person to outsource to, because then you almost have that criteria of these are the services that I need, and that will narrow it down massively. Otherwise, if you just type in virtual assistant, you're going to get, thousands of results.
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely. I think it also comes back down to your network and your connections, knowing who are the right virtual assistants. Not everybody is made for everybody, that's for sure. You got to have a conversation with the right people first, get to know each other, see and understand, and yeah, just feel like they're a good fit for you. Give it a go then. See how it goes on a short-term basis. Give it a trial process, basically. Give it a run. See how things go.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work, don't be afraid to kind of try. If you work with one person and think, oh, they can't quite do what I need to do, don't be afraid to then just try somebody else. Like, it's kind of like dating. You need to, you might need to try a couple. But I think if you have calls beforehand, if you have a discovery call, if you understand what their process is and how they work, that will really help to mitigate that and to make sure that before you jump in, you are finding the person that's the right fit for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about time management as well. I think this is a big thing for a lot of people. And in particular, where I'm working is I see so many people get frustrated because they feel that they don't have enough time, or they feel that, sometimes time is just irrelevant. So from your perspective, when you get clients, what do you share with them, and what are some of the tips maybe that you can share with the audience on time management?
I think when it comes to time management, it's partly about reviewing how you're spending your time, and also about reviewing what you're trying to do in terms of looking at your to-do list. And so sometimes for me, if my to-do list is really long, I will just get overwhelmed and then I will do absolutely nothing because I just don't know where to start. I think I can't get this all done today. So instead of trying to do as much as I can, I'll do nothing. So, and I know that. So now I will be really clear in terms of what needs to be done. What are my, 3 priorities that I have to get done today? And everything else, if I get it done, great, but it's not essential. It can be done tomorrow. It might even be able to be done next week. It doesn't need to be done today. And I think almost sense checking to do this, because we can just write stuff on, and really it's kind of an idea. It's something you want to do at some point, but it doesn't need to be done today. Could possibly be done next month. And if you're finding that you're moving things across and, it's on your list today, it's on your list tomorrow, it's on your list the day after, maybe it's worth either crossing it off because it doesn't need to be done, because really you've got this far without doing it, or putting it on kind of another list for next month or for, later down the line. Because I think a lot of it comes from that overwhelm of feeling like we need to be everywhere, we need to be doing everything. And so we beat ourselves up because we're not, and then that actually makes us less productive. So if you kind of do that sense checking, that can be really helpful in terms of, right, now I've got my 3 things, I'm going to bang through those 3 things. Oh, look, I've still got 2 hours, I'll do this other thing. As opposed to kind of starting the day with 10 things and then just not really making progress on any of them, or doing a bit on one, a bit on another. And then at the end of the day, you think, I've been sat at my desk for 8 hours and I've achieved very little.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you mentioned something there, which I've kind of noted myself as well. I don't have to-do lists because I get overwhelmed by them. If I look at all of those things I've written down that I still have to do, I'm like, oh my gosh, and it's so overwhelming. So, and this is the other thing. I used to have so many post-it notes all over my computer screen and everything, and I was like, too overwhelming. So what I did is I just really started by giving myself a rule. I'm not allowed to have more than 2 post-its on my desk. I know, very tough for some people. Not allowed to have more than 2 post-its on my desk. And also, I don't have a to-do list. But what I have is, when I put things down on my post-it, is if I look at it and go, okay, I know I've got to do that, but that is not important, I immediately use my calendar, and I use my online calendar, and I go and slot it in a day and say, between this time and this time, that's when I'm going to do it. And then because it is scheduled in my calendar, I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have to think about it now. And I don't have to look at it because it's done, it's scheduled. And for me, that works because I get overwhelmed very quickly with all the tasks that I've got to do on a daily basis. But because it is in my calendar, all I need to do is just come in, and this is what I'm focusing on today.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously I've got a whole overall view of things that I got to focus on, but this is what I need to focus on because I knew that I slotted that in for a specific reason based on what else need to happen for the rest of the week or the month or whatever. And that works. And that really works.
Yeah,
But
and
then
it
again,
takes away the overwhelm because
exactly.
I'm going to have time to do it. So you're not looking at the list thinking, oh my goodness, because you already know I've got this time to do this either today, tomorrow, later on in the week. And then, so you're not sitting there kind of panicking.
Yeah. But then the beauty of that is what I found is little things. Let's just take an example, social media posts. So I slot it in, say this is the time I'm going to do it. Then I get to that day and we're like, oh, it's not so important. I'll move it to tomorrow. Tomorrow I move it again and I move it again. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I keep on moving certain things, meaning that I don't have time to do it. Oh, well, what do you know? So start outsourcing it.
Yeah.
So it kind of gave me that structure about what I should be doing that is really priority, and the other things that I feel they are important, but it's not my priority at that moment in time. And that just gave me the idea that, hey, by using my calendar in this way, I can now see what are the things that I keep on moving down the list, so to speak. And those are the things that you need to know that it's time to start outsourcing them. So hopefully that could be a tip for everybody listening to this or watching this video as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's a lot of project management softwares out there.
Yeah.
So where you can record ideas for, because I know sometimes people think, oh, but if it's not on my to-do list, I'll kind of forget about it. I'll never come back to it. So, I mean, I use ClickUp, but there's, Trello, Monday, there's so many. And you can record things there in terms of managing projects, but also in terms of managing just general to-dos, ideas for a later date. And then it kind of keeps it all there. You've brain dumped it, but it's not on 22 scrappy bits of paper that are all around your desk or on all your post-it notes. It's kind of away and tidy, and you can come back to it. If you start your list for July, you can come back to it in July and think, right, what do I need to do this month? What shall I move over to August? And that can be a really good way of doing it electronically, just using one of those softwares. And you can do a lot of automation and all kinds of things on there to make it as efficient as possible to kind of keep track as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it just kind of gives you that sense of you are in control. But if you feel you're getting overwhelmed and you're losing control, then do exactly what we said, people. Just go down and find the things that you feel you can start outsourcing. Don't leave it too late, because if you leave it too late, it will be a process, and it'll be an even harder process to start handing over to a VA. And there are so many great VAs out there. Honestly, there are so many. I've met so many of them. So if you are looking for a VA, let me know. I can definitely put you in touch, or just go and contact Maya. You never know.
And I mean, project management softwares as well are great in terms of for that relationship with a VA. You can set them up with kind of statuses and things. So then that can be a really great way of actually you can go in, have a look at a glance, see the progress that's been made, see where we're at on everything. You can add comments as notes, and that really can kind of give you an overview of where we're at, and mean that from both sides the communication is there, and exactly what's happening and exactly where you're at, instead of just using email or WhatsApp. It kind of can bring things together more holistically. And as your business grows and scales, that's a much more scalable model than just having everything on an email chain or on WhatsApp.
Yeah, exactly. So no, there are so many great resources out there. I agree with you. So many great platforms to make it easier. And again, not everything is for everybody. So you've got to find what works for you. But Maya, oh my gosh, just having this conversation really, really brings it home. And I really, really appreciate you coming on to the podcast. But before we go, you've got an amazing outsource guide, don't you? So tell us a little bit about the guide before we go.
I have. So I've put together the outsourcing guide. It's kind of based on my experience both working as a virtual assistant and also kind of growing my team. So kind of from both sides. And really it's designed to kind of take you through the process from working out whether it's the right time for you to outsource, to kind of working out what tasks you can outsource, how to find the right virtual assistant for you, and kind of really answering all of those questions that I'm most commonly asked. And so I've put that together, and hopefully that's a helpful resource if you're thinking about taking that next step, or if it's just a next step that's kind of on the horizon somewhere and you want to be putting those things in place as soon as possible to make that transition as efficient and seamless as you can.
Perfect. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go have a look as well. So thank you so much. And for those of you listening or watching this video, obviously the link for the outsourcing guide is down in my show notes. So go and have a look there. If you want to connect with Maya as well, then by all means, her social media links and her website will also be in my show notes. So feel free to go and check her out, connect with her, stalk her a little bit if you need to. I'm sure she wouldn't mind. And then if you want to have a conversation with her, please do reach out. Just based on the conversation we've had today, hopefully that's given you some guidance and helping you feel like you're not the only one out there. It is just the principle of getting started, to give it to somebody else, letting go of that control just a little bit. And then you'll see everything will just start falling in place and it will become easier and easier to outsource and to hand over to a VA as well, just to make your life a little bit easier. Okay. But Maya, thank you so much again. I really appreciate your time here. Is there one last little tip that you can give to the audience?
I think my biggest tip would be there will never be the perfect time for anything really, but especially when it comes to outsourcing, the stars will never perfectly align. You will always have lots of plates to spin. So if you're waiting for the perfect time for anything in your business, that may never come. So if it feels like it's an okay time, it's probably the perfect time, and just go for it, because you could be waiting a long time for perfect.
Oh yeah, and don't we all know it? Oh, bless you. Thank you so much again for being here. I wish you all of the best, and we'll be in contact very soon again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.